Hi everybody, welcome to Sunday's Indycar. I'm Gordon Ross, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Herman von Rompuy, who you might remember from 5 or 6 years ago was instrumental in interfering in the Scottish independence referendum on behalf of his friends in the British government. Now, Van Rompuy is the ex-president of the European Council, or the Council of Europe, and now is just basically a retired European, ex-European minister. But Van Rompuy has some history, some form in trying to undermine Scottish independence in as many different ways as possible. And he was one of several prominent European leaders who, during the 2014 referendum on Scottish independence, warned against independence and thought it would be a disaster. And now we have him this week warning against no-deal Brexit and saying that the no-deal Brexit, which the British government has been warning us about so vehemently for the last few weeks, would cause, in his words, the break-up of the United Kingdom. Because, as he put it, if there is a hard Brexit, then the Scots will vote to leave the UK, thus breaking up the United Kingdom. And essentially what this is it's trying to make a threat in a way. Somebody pointed this out on the BBC, and an American correspondent pointed this out, that this is actually a threat from this ex-European minister who's now no longer a part of any government or has any influence at all other than his past history. Is now saying that if Britain doesn't get a deal from Europe, it's going to break up. The European threat there is that we're going to make sure you have a no deal, and you know, if you don't obey the rules and get a good deal with us, your country is going to fall apart because Scotland's going to vote to leave you. It's not an encouragement to Scotland to leave the UK. It's a threat to the UK to make sure that Scotland doesn't leave the UK. So Rompuy doing his usual here, sticking his oar in where it's not needed. He has no power to do anything and has no actual political power of any sort to make any kind of threat to anybody. However, I haven't seen much reaction to this statement from the government so far, but from the ratcheting up of the fear campaign about a no-deal Brexit, I think we can conclude that the British state is aiming to get a bad deal, because a bad deal is going to look better than a no deal. If they talk down the whole prospect of no deal to the point where people are terrified out of their wits of it, shortages of medicines, people dying in hospital beds, queues of lorries up the M4, all of these things are just fear campaign, just like they were running in 2014 against independence, only this time it's aimed at making sure that when Theresa May comes back from the negotiations with a pretty bad deal where none of the red lines that the UK has insisted upon can be kept, and they're having to keep Northern Ireland inside the customs union, and Britain's having to remain in the customs union, and it's having to remain in the single market, and it's having to do all the things that the hard Brexiteers didn't want, that May can then say, well, it's better than no deal was going to be, and therefore we have, pulled a rabbit out of the hat, we've rescued you from a fate worse than death. And the Scots aren't obviously going to rebel and break up the UK Union because Van Rompuy was saying that they would. The British state has got friends in Europe, and Van Rompuy is one of them. He's one of their placemen in Europe. He makes these noises now and again to make it sound like the Scots are going to break up the Union. Well, he may be right. Maybe we will break up the Union, but the point is he's not saying this for our benefit. He's saying this for the benefit of the Tories, to help them to talk up the bad deal that they're about to get. So I'm thinking now, and I think most commentators are concluding, that the British state is aiming for a poor Brexit deal, which is a bit Brexity but not very much, basically outside the EU but with a normal trade deal, with the usual caveats attached to that about having to allow Europeans free access to the United Kingdom to come and go as they please. And I think that it's still going to cause a problem. Incidentally, those of you who saw a post the other day will know that I received a leaflet from the Conservative leader Ruth Davidson, a full colour glossy leaflet, saying that they were the only people who could beat the SNP. Now, to my knowledge, there's not been any election called, so why is Ruth Davidson launching an election campaign before there's been a general election announced? I think we could probably infer from that there's probably going to be another general election, rather than there being any kind of Scottish vote on independence. I think it's far more likely that the Tories are going to come back with a bad deal, and Theresa May is going to get chucked out, and there's going to be a general election probably before Christmas. Why else would Ruth Davidson be launching an election campaign with leaflets in a wealthy place like Bearsden right now, when there's absolutely no general election on the immediate horizon? Again, another interesting development here. So we've got Van Rompuy saying that a bad deal Brexit will break Britain up and Scotland will secede. Ruth Davidson's now saying there's going to be a general election. So if you put these two things together, it's going to mean a bad deal is being arranged between Europe and the UK. The UK is going to be sold this under the aegis of it being slightly better than no deal. And Ruth Davidson's getting ready for a campaign against the SNP. She claims that the Tories are the only party in Scotland that can beat the SNP, which is going to be hard going considering how far back they are in the opinion poll. But anyway, that point aside, that leads me to the actual second part of this show, which is about Holyrood. Now, we're all desperately keen to make sure that our Parliament survives past Brexit so that we still have a way of conducting our business in a democratic way, and so that we still have the political infrastructure that we need for when we do become independent. Obviously, we have to vote for independence. Now, whether it's in a general election or not doesn't matter. It could be a general election, it could be an advisory ballot, it could be a referendum with a Section 30, or it doesn't really matter. But the point is, we need to realise that the incident the other day where Alex Salmond was basically attacked in the media because of a leak from a civil service department inside Holyrood itself, led by a woman who is an ally of the Tories. I think you could say that with reasonable certainty. She has a degree in music, for God's sake, from Liverpool University. She's not even really qualified to do the job that she's doing, leading the civil service in Scotland. We need to remember that Holyrood was set up by the UK. Its infrastructure is run by UK civil servants at every level. So as a parliament goes, it's infiltrated by another state at every single level. So no matter what the SNP has managed to do to convince us that they are our government, which of course they are our government, at one time they would have just been called the executive, because that was the way the British state wanted us to view it. Now we have a government which is being run by a hostile foreign power, basically by London. London is now undermining the SNP from within the Scottish Civil Service. And we need to remember that now in future. The gloves have come off now. The Tories and Westminster have now shown their cards, that they have people placed at every single level inside the Scottish Civil Service. And they've been put there to hamper, to delay, to smear, and to generally try to confuse and divide the electorate. And that is going to be happening more and more. So it's very important that we realise that Holyrood, although it's a fine institution, is being run by London at some level. Okay, so despite decisions that we take there being law in Scotland, being voted on by us and being conducted by MSPs that we voted for on our behalf, and some that we didn't vote for on somebody else's behalf, although all that is true, we have to remember that our Parliament is infiltrated by a hostile power, a power that does not want us to vote to leave the UK. And so now we have that to worry about as well. We've also got Facebook starting to clamp down on sites like mine. Facebook has started to restrict access to people's accounts. It started to restrict access myself to my own account. Other activists have had their accounts frozen and been frozen out of them, been forced to change passwords to come back in on a new system, it seems, of Facebook. All kinds of restrictions are being placed on Facebook at the moment, not in favour of independence, but certainly more in favour of damping down independence, campaigning like we do. So I have a platform on YouTube, which you probably already know about if you've been following my feeds, and you'll find Indycar Gordon Ross on YouTube. It has its own channel. So if Facebook is stopping you from watching these programmes, go to YouTube and subscribe to Indycar Gordon Ross online. And you'll be able to find me there every day, and there's a massive archive of hundreds of episodes of this show, which, although they're going out live on Facebook, the audience is being restricted, and the number of people who can comment and the number of people I can reply to is also being restricted by Facebook. So if you really want to keep watching and you want other people to see this show, sign up to the YouTube account, become a follower on YouTube, become a subscriber, and encourage your friends to do the same. Anyway, I'll see you probably tomorrow. Have a good Sunday. I'm sorry the weather's pretty lousy today, but remember what we're saying. Rompuy is not our friend. The Tories are going for a bad Brexit rather than no Brexit deal. That's becoming more and more obvious. Ruth Davidson is planning for a general election, and Indycar is being restricted by Facebook. So those are the main points of the news today that are to do with independence. So I hope you can take that all away with you, have a think about it, and let's start doing some strategic reordering of the way we use social media so that people still can see this show and others like it. I'll see you later. Bye for now.